Well, hi there, and welcome to our first of 6 lessons from the book, What Are You? By Amelia Shanklin. Now, I want to share with you a couple of things about this book before we move forward. And one is that this book was written almost 100 years ago, and it is still totally applicable today, with one major exception, and that is throughout her writings, she refers to God as Him, mostly in lowercase h. In our purposes, when we read through this material, I'm requesting that you change the word Him or Father to simply the word God, knowing that each of us might have a different understanding of how we define God. It could be spirit, it could be intuition, loving kindness, whatever your term for God. But I don't want you to be triggered at all while you're reading this text. So we're going to start today with our first lesson of 6, and it's going on the very first chapter of her book, and it's entitled Your Identity. What is your identity? And it's a very key question, because when we are asked, who are you? What we're really asking is, what are you? Those are two different questions. The what are you never changes. It's part of who you are innately with no way to adjust that. Such as, God and you are one. That's a statement. It's also part of your identity. You are made in the image and likeness of God. That's true for you and for everyone. God is love. That is true for everyone, unchanging. So when you say, I am love, you're saying that you are that part of which represents God as love. So in her text, she really talks about this notion and getting them separated so that we're very clear when we speak about who we are, that we're speaking from our identity, or are we speaking from our personality, our personal self? Our personal self changes with the day, changes with the tide, as they say. One day you might be loving, caring, and the next day you might be tired and ornery. These are things that change of the who of you. It's that personal self. It's that part of you that can be different at any time. But God in you never changes. God is always good. Even if outer experiences seem to say otherwise, that part of you, which always represents God, is good. That's your identity. She also goes on to say that there are 3 aspects of us. And it's important to know those 3 aspects. The first one is spiritual, the second one is mind, and the third one is your physical self. Now I'm going to start from the bottom and work my way up. The physical is a result of your mind. And your mind holds the who of you together. It gives you the impressions and the pictures of what it is you do. And the mind within you can change. And it's busy collecting data all of the time. You see, your physical self is a result of your dominant thinking, your mind. What you give your attention to grows. If you think you are something, your body will respond to create that truth of you. Not the what of you, but the who of you. And our mind can be changed. We can have the renewing of our mind. We can change what's in our mind so that our physical form can change. It's an interesting story about how the longer we keep a dog around, we start to look like our dogs. How is that possible? And yet it is. Because the two of you are so connected. You see each other with love, and you manifest that in your mental state, and it creates the personality of you, the personal self of you, the physical side of you changes because of your thinking. Two people who spend years and years together, they too start to look alike because they are seeing each other in each other. So our physical state changes based on our thinking, what's in our mind, because the action of us comes from our mind. We create it. The mind's job is to just suck in the data and choose which action or thought we will pick up. You see, and then there's the third, and that first formative aspect of us is the spiritual side. That's our identity. That's the part that never changes. Now, our mind is busy collecting all of these data, and it is said that we are born free of sin. Now, be careful here, because the word sin means missing the mark. It means that our mind has changed something about us from our identity and made it less than our identity. Hence, missing the mark and using the term sin. We've done something not quite spiritually correct. We call it living below the line. And when we change our minds, we live more above the line, which is more of who we really are, part of our identity. So these three aspects of God, it's important that we understand and distinguish between the three. Our spiritual side is always with us. We can never be separated from God. Our mental state causes us to be in a state of separation from God. So our physical form will then take on that appearance of being separated from God. And that physical form takes place in our five senses, the senses of our world. And so if you want to change your physical form, you must change your mind about yourself. And if we bring out more of who we really are into our mental state, our physical state will change as well. It's a lot like that positive attitude creates a positive expression of our lives. It's true. It's very true. But it's important that we know the difference between them. You see, because God is impersonal, never changes, while our physical form changes every day. It changes every day. You see, the personal, she shares with us on page 10, the personal can and frequently does act ignorantly, sinfully. The impersonal never can be ignored and can never sin. You see, the spiritual side doesn't go below the line. Our spiritual side always stays above the line, where God is always good. But our mental state can lend us to think otherwise. It tells us that we're not healthy. It tells us that death is inevitable. It tells us that we've inherited something that is not pleasant. That's the mental side of us that changes the physical side of us. So if we change our mental state of what we are and act from what we are more than who we are, we will see physical changes within us that are moving us closer to a relationship with God. And that relationship that we're creating, recreating, because we were born with it, but our mental state has changed its appearance for us. Physically, you are the substance of God, page 15, molded in the matrix of your mind. If you are not satisfied with your personality, you should remold it. For that purpose, you have a mind. Remolding our mind changes our physical. And Amelia Shanklin says, if you're going to change your mind, then change it in the direction of what you really are. Your body is the blossom of your mind. What you are telling your body, you create. What are you telling your body? And is it what you want to really create? So I'm going to pause this video now and invite you to go into your groups and to ask the question, what are you telling your bodies? And is it coming from your what are you, your identity side, your God side. And what changes can you make about what you're telling your mind and your body? Well, welcome back. Welcome back. And I hope that conversation was fruitful. And I hope that you'll take this to heart to understand that what we create in our mind, and I like to call it the fake news, because we do fill our minds with so much information, and so much of it is not true of who we really are. So, what are you is an important aspect of your spiritual growth. What have you told yourself that you now realize is not true of you? You get to change your mind. You get to tell yourself something more positive, more uplifting, and more fulfilling in your relationship with God. You see, we have many lives that we have infilled all of this information, erroneous information. And so I invite you to take this new knowledge of who you are to heart, to decide to no longer be part of the erroneous thinking, but rather spend more time in the truth of what you are, and allow your mind to fully grasp that you are a child of God and a loving, caring human being. And for that,